Hello, I'm Mark Baer. You're watching YourTown television. And my guest today, artist Lucas Blok.
I'm back.
Hola, baby. So,
Hit me with a question.
hit you with a question. So, I've been interviewing you over 20 years now.
Yeah.
So this ain't the first
There's
time.
nothing new here, folks.
There ain't nothing here new, you see.
Except one thing, COVID.
COVID. So,
COVID.
What were you doing?
Well, the great thing about being a painter is you're always alone anyway. So I've been self-isolating for the last 50 years. So I just continued doing that. Although I did go home once in a while, and I didn't make my wife sick or anything like that. Although I did get COVID eventually.
Because you went to New York.
Because I went to New York, yeah, it'll do that. But no, I think that's the great thing is I could just continue working. It's been good. There's lots of other changes that go along with COVID, but that wasn't one of them.
So the online approach, how'd that work for you?
Well, that's the big change. You
Okay.
know, everybody now is getting used to looking at artwork online. Unfortunately, it's not really in line with what I like to do, which is if the painting is going to be a painting, it should be a painting, and people should experience it as a painting. And putting things online, they become digital images that are good online. So that's sort of a conundrum for me. I'm trying to
Simulacrum.
Hey, I like that.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes.
I thought that was some sort of baby food.
No.
No, but however, digital art maybe,
Yes.
and that's the problem. Yeah, I mean, does painting have any relevance anymore? I mean, they're working real hard to try and keep art relevant these days, but is painting relevant? Is a painting relevant anymore when we have a digitized world?
When you wake up and you have it on your wall and you're drinking your coffee and
Yeah.
you're staring at it, yeah.
Yeah, but now people are putting up, 84-inch screens. And they can change their art just like that. They can wake up with Degas, or they can wake up with Lucas Blok, or they can go to sleep with the Mona Lisa.
But
Just
you
by
don't
pushing a
have
button.
the tactility.
Exactly. Well, that's the question. But history is not created by the artist or by the writer. It's created by the audience. The audience decides what's historically relevant. The marketers decide what's financially relevant. The world changes not because of individual efforts. It changes because audiences are willing to accept it and maintain it.
And yet the artist can't chase the audience, or you're
No.
that is the road to madness.
I hope so. No, I think it's a problem because it's well, first of all, I don't live in New York. I live here, which has already puts me outside the art world in a way. I mean, the audience is smaller. It's more personal. The artwork is more personal. It's my little world, and getting it out there is hard to do. Putting it into a digital world, that makes it even more foreign because again, it's not a painting. It's not what I intended as the work.
Well, the good news is it does look good in that
It
world.
looks good in that world, yeah.
So that's even a different.
That might be part of it.
That's a different rub.
But now you get NFTs.
Yeah, let's not even go there. Let's not even go there. But as we've said, you created an arena for yourself many years ago.
Yeah.
Life is short, art is long, and it takes a long time to get a little better. And in this arena that you've exploring with color, and what are you learning? What are you still finding? And are you still getting the bang?
Well, I think the 20th century gave us the fact that art exists in its own right. It's not about anything. It's its own image, its own thing. And I still, I thought that was pretty profound. So my paintings, I just tried to hone that and educate myself on how to get a piece of work that becomes experiential for the viewer and for myself, of course. I mean, there is a theater aspect to it. I'm showing the work, so there's a theater there. So it's getting the work to be clearer, getting the statement to be more clear, getting the effect to be more powerful, and trying to connect to still some old ideas that I grew up with in the 60s and 50s and 60s, which is abstract expressionism, the idea that something transfers from a painting when the viewer looks at it. Art is more about the experience than it is about the thing. And I think that's valid for me painting it, and I think it's valid for somebody who looks at it. It's what happens when the two meet, when the viewer and the thing meets.
Well, as Deschamps said, it takes the viewer to complete the work of art.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
but it is a journey of self-discovery if it's true.
Yeah.
You know, there's people who think, what do they like, and can give them what they like, and if they like it once, you'll give it to them again and again and again.
Right.
And that makes total sense, but that's not art.
No, it's marketing.
Or it's just something else, and I don't know that people understand that. Your job, hopefully it pleases, but your job isn't to please. Your job is to to learn, have insight.
Well, I think it's a balancing act, you know, because you're dealing in a public forum. So I'm not totally isolated in my studio. I still know that work is going to be seen. So I have to somehow not make judgments as to what is expected from the audience, but I have to be aware what the audience probably is able to expect in the experience. So there's that dance you go back and forth with. And the whole aspect of the learning for yourself is in the process of art, which you do, you know that happens. There's something that happens in that process that you can't get out of the painting. It happens in creating the painting. And that's what keeps you working, as far as I'm concerned. That's the part where you're bumping into subconsciousness, you're bumping into history, you're bumping into your own life experiences, and it happens sort of outside your conscious
You want the
mind.
surprise.
Yeah, of course.
If you go to work, you want to be surprised.
That painting is
No
not
surprise for the artist, no surprise for the viewer.
You mentioned Duchamp, you know, and basically he said if you think of it, you've already done it. And because that's what you don't want to go there. You want to actually have the process.
Yeah, you want to non-think.
You're right. You want to have it happen.
Yeah, you don't want to think.
Well, I have to think somewhat. Because there's a lot of prep work and a lot of structural stuff I have to do. So I think everybody does some of that. It's just at a certain point you have to allow it to push you around.
That's building the theater.
Yeah, right.
That's like building the thing, and then the explosion, whatever that is, that's the surprise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thinking in the prep.
Oh yeah.
But the bing is like, oh.
If it doesn't surprise you, what's the point?
Well, that's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
It's
or you almost get there. It's the almost to get there. That's what I find. I find most paintings I may like them to a degree, but there always is more that I'd like to get out of it.
And you never get there.
No.
And how do poets and painters not jump out the window at a certain point?
I think they do sometimes.
I mean, I'm just amazed that they don't.
But a lot of them do all kinds of crazy things because there's a lot of self-doubt, a lot of failure, a lot of that stuff that goes along with it.
The better you get, the more of it.
Well, it's like you're refining it to such a degree that it becomes more and more critical. You have to be careful of that because it stops you from doing the work as well. I mean, I've had moments too where you walk up to a canvas and you know you have to do it, but I'm afraid to start because I've put myself in a corner, overthinking, over prepping, over whatever.
I mean, isn't it amazing what to put paint on a canvas alone in a room, what a high drama it is. It seems crazy, but it is a high drama. Yeah, it's a tightrope walk every time.
It may be a tempest in a teapot, but
well, watching it would be insane. Yeah. But it's a drama.
Yeah.
And that drama is addictive.
It's the only thing you can do, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
It is an addiction. It is a necessity. It is a food. It is a feeding.
And having done it now all these years, and that's an accomplishment.
A friend of mine said you are doing it.
Yeah, you are doing it
after all those years, because I think that's one of the hardest parts. I think for people who come out of a school and they're painters and they're artists, but maintaining that for 50 years requires a lot of
maintaining a level, and then when you bring the level up, you can't bring the level back down.
No,
you can't. I did this pleasing thing all these years ago. I think I'll do that pleasing thing again.
People ask you that.
Although you do that pleasing thing again, but you do it differently. So there is looping.
Yeah, no, for my work in particular, because it's so reductive and minimalized in design, that I end up doing similar designs. It's what's happening that I see is changing is the color is changing, the quality of the color.
Yeah.
The experience of the color is changing. And that's That's very subtle, but it's where
Yeah.
I spend my time.
I mean, you've done a real deep exploration of subtle color.
Yeah, well, color is inherently a study of the human mind because that's the only place it exists. The rest is just radiation. And I mean, the fascination of human beings being able to turn it into the colors is purely our little experience here. Cats don't see it that way, dogs don't see it that way. They have color, but it's not the way we see it. So it's our own generated reality.
And you have these aha moments where, how come I didn't see that before?
Well, that's another thing is a lot of people when they walk up to work don't see what's going on in color. They don't realize that there's things changing and happening. That's something we untrain ourselves for as we age. But I've gone the other way. I'm much more aware of the halo around your head because I see the color changing and being affected by other colors. So the color of you changes what's happening behind you, and what's behind you is changing the color of you.
So this is what the artist gets, because there's a lot of things that the artist doesn't get.
Oh, yeah.
The artist has, again, doubt, depression, failure. It's never good enough.
Right.
It's in fashion. It's out of fashion.
Right.
It's this. It's that.
And if you're full time, you have to eat and have to
And
pay
you
the
have to
rent,
eat,
and you
and
get
you have-
ill, and you get sick, and you get cancer, and you die. And there's
Yeah.
all those things that are happening at the same time. You fall in love. It's
And
all
it
part
takes energy. Let's
Yeah.
just talk about the psychological energy that it takes to maintain the high.
of it. It's almost bipolar in a way. I mean, everybody gets their black dog. I think if they're seriously working, there's a certain point where that optimism or that desire to move forward stops.
And you still have to work through it.
You have to work through it, yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get easier necessarily, I think.
No, but you know to get
have
stay on the horse.
If you fall down and get back up, you know the next time you fall, you can probably get up again.
Yeah.
And I have a partner, luckily,
Yeah.
who knows how to treat the disease.
Yeah, and you get to go home and not be the painter.
Right.
Which I think it's we're both lucky to have
Yes.
wives so that we can unplug.
Exactly. And
Because if you're stuck in that head and in that drama, it'll eat you up.
well, yeah, like we were just talking with Will Bullis in previous interviews about, we get together and just sit and talk and spend time in the studio without necessarily talking about the artwork, even though it's on the wall. We don't talk about it because we need to undo. We need to have a moment where our personalities can just play and and unload, because it can be overwhelming. I think we've all run into people who got lost on that track, and it's something we all deal with.
Yeah. But to do it,
It's-
what a high.
Yeah, I would recommend it to everybody. But I've been doing it. That's all I know now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So I've seen some of the new work, some smaller pieces. Those are
Right.
really that's really interesting. So it's amazing that within your parameters there's ever change.
Yeah. Well, I think my wife Barbara is a pianist, a classical type. Bach kept working with the same little scales, but look what he did with them. And finding ways to make that happen.
Yeah. And the finiteness of the structure gives you freedom. It's funny. All freedom gives you nowhere. You'll be here, there, everywhere, lost.
Well, it's kind of a balancing act. The painting seems simple, static, and whatever, but the effect and the experience is chaos in the viewer's mind. I mean, the thing that's happening is the creativity is actually happening outside the painting. The painting is the stable part. It's you that's not. The viewer is not. That's the part that I think is fascinating about 20th century, the change in 20th century art is the viewer became more important. It was more existential. It was more, it's not that it's selfish, but you become aware of your experience, and you're looking at life and realizing life is through your eyes and your mind. And I think the 20th century gave us that in painting and in art in general. And that's a fascinating way to work, because I'm not just working with me, I'm working with your head in a way.
On the other hand, an audience could have an experience with one of the paintings and be perfectly satisfied.
Sure.
But you might not. And
Oh, of course not. No.
yeah, so again, your satisfaction really has to come first.
See, that's all I can really do. It's all
Yeah.
I can really do. I mean, I think ultimately audiences are going to judge by their experience. That's what I was saying earlier. You know,
Yeah.
history is created by the audience, not by the artist.
But they, on the audience, your work can become a brand. They can identify it as a
Yeah.
Lucas Blok. You can have, we talk NFTs. It's got this value. That's a
Yeah.
artificial thing. Well, that's not a reflection of the work.
No. But it's mostly what the so-called art world is all about. We got museums with umpteen budgets and billions-dollar budgets who have to fill the place with plebs to come in and see the work. So it's all about competing with Six Flags and the whole shebang. The art world is very different than me in a studio.
Yeah, but on the other hand, there's an awful lot of artists who maintain over time who do really, really fine
Yeah.
work. And the level of your work is what enriches them. In other words, what artists give each other is their best.
Yeah.
Because it's maintaining a bar and maintaining it's like you can't let the side down. You have to see a piece of art and you have to respond to it. You can do that, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
That back and forth, that level of integrity, and that's one of the hardest things about working in a small community, is that sometimes what passes for a high bar isn't a high bar.
Right.
And you've been fortunate enough, and I think we live in a community that's fortunate enough to be a small place, but have some people very committed, very accomplished, and to keep that level.
Yeah.
And that level is what over historic time, it'll be something or it won't. You never know.
No, there's no guarantees in any of it. And the reality is, we do show our work outside the area. We do.
Yeah.
We do deal with that. And
Yeah,
we do-
you're
so
not
it's a
not
mobile-
anonymous.
It's a mobile society. So it does keep going.
So hopefully many more years and many more
Interviews, I hope. Yeah.
interviews and many more revelations. And like I say, I've been watching the work for 20 years, and it keeps developing, and it develops faster than the artist. Even though it seems like a snail's pace, the art develops faster than the audience can take it in.
Hopefully.
It's a for the audience, it's a very, time will be the educator.
Yeah.
So.
And that's yeah. I mean, if I can do the work in such a way that more people can not understand it, but get it, so to speak, or have a good time with it, or do with whatever they're going to do with it.
And
communicate.
And getting older, this is the time now. This is the master time. And I mean, this is the time when you want to go farther, deeper, everywhere. It's not the sputtering of a candle.
There's the old friend time.
Yeah. So the urgency.
There's a sense of urgency about it. Yeah.
So
yeah.
which
if not now, when?
Yeah, and it makes the work. It keeps the work fresh, alive.
Yeah, and I think it pushes you a little harder.
It pushes you harder.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the YourTown television show. I'm with Lucas Blok. We'll be back.